The blood running into her eyes made the world swim in shades of crimson and shadow. And Violet Crawford knew that if she did not get away from the homestead within the next few minutes, her stepfather would make good on his promise to kill her this time. She stumbled through the scrub brush outside the ramshackle cabin in Beaver, Utah, her bare feet catching on stones and thorns as she ran, the August sun of 1883 beating down mercilessly on her shoulders. Behind her, she could hear Walter Pritchard bellowing her name, his voice thick with whiskey and rage, and she forced her legs to keep moving even though her vision was narrowing to a pinpoint. Her left eye had already swollen shut from where he had struck her with the iron poker, and the right was filling with blood from the gash across her forehead where he had thrown her against the stone fireplace. She had lived with the man for 3 years, ever since her mother had married him when Violet was 15 years old. Her mother had died 6 months later from pneumonia, leaving Violet alone with a man whose temperament grew darker with each passing season. He worked claims in the nearby hills, searching for silver that never materialized, and took his failures out on her with his fists and whatever implement came to hand. Today had been the worst. She had burned the bacon at breakfast, and the punishment had been swift and terrible. Violet did not know where she was going. She only knew she had to get away. The landscape around Beaver was harsh and unforgiving, high desert country where the summers scorched and the winters froze, where a person could die of thirst within a day if they were not careful. She had no water, no food, no shoes, and her vision was failing rapidly. The blood kept coming, streaming down from the wound on her head, and she wiped at it frantically with the sleeve of her torn calico dress, but it did no good. Her foot caught on a root and she went down hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. She lay there gasping, pressing her face against the dusty earth, trying to summon the strength to rise. Everything hurt. Her ribs ached where he had kicked her, her face throbbed with each heartbeat, and her hands were scraped raw from where she had tried to defend herself. She was 18 years old, and she thought she might die here, alone in the desert, and perhaps that would be a mercy. The sound of hoofbeats made her freeze. For a terrible moment she thought it was Walter, that he had saddled his mule and come after her, but then she heard a man's voice, low and concerned, speaking words she could not quite make out through the ringing in her ears. Miss, can you hear me?" She tried to lift her head but could not manage it. Strong hands touched her shoulders, gentle despite their obvious strength, and then she was being turned over carefully. She blinked up at the figure above her but could make out only a dark silhouette against the blinding sky. "Dear God," the man said softly. "What happened to you?" Violet tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. She made a small sound, something between a whimper and a sob, and then the darkness took her. When consciousness returned, she was moving, cradled against something warm and solid. A horse, she realized dimly. She was on a horse and someone was holding her securely in the saddle. The motion made her stomach lurch, but she was too weak to protest. "Easy now," that same voice said, close to her ear. "I've got you. You are safe." Safe. The word seemed impossible. She had not been safe in 3 years. "Can you tell me your name?" the man asked. "Violet," she managed to whisper. "Violet Crawford." "I am Vincent Harper. I am taking you to the doctor in Beaver. Hold on, Miss Crawford, just hold on." She wanted to protest, wanted to tell him that she could not go back to town, that Walter would find her there, but the words would not come. Her head lolled against his chest, and she felt the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her cheek. He smelled of horse and leather and sweat, clean, honest smells, and she found herself relaxing despite everything. "Stay with me," Vincent Harper said. "Talk to me. Tell me what happened." "Stepfather," she whispered. "He hurt me." She felt him stiffen. "Your stepfather did this to you." She managed a tiny nod. Where is he now? The homestead, east of town. The words came out slurred. Please, he will kill me if he finds me. He will have to come through me first, Vincent said, and there was steel in his voice. And I promise you, Miss Crawford, I will not let that happen. They rode for what felt like hours, though it could not have been more than 20 minutes. Violet drifted in and out of awareness, surfacing occasionally to hear Vincent speaking to her in that steady, calming voice, telling her to hold on, that they were almost there. At some point she became aware that her eyes were burning terribly, that she could barely see at all through the blood and swelling. My eyes, she mumbled, cannot see. I know, he said gently. We will get them cleaned up. The doctor will know what to do. But when they reached the edge of Beaver, Vincent did not take her to the doctor's office. Instead, he guided his horse to a small house on the outskirts of town, a neat structure with whitewashed walls and a well in the yard. He dismounted carefully, keeping her cradled against his chest, and carried her inside. I am going to set you down now, he told her. There is a chair right behind you. She felt the solid wood of a chair against the backs of her legs and sank into it gratefully. She heard him moving around the room, the sound of a door opening and closing, the splash of water being poured. Then he was kneeling in front of her, and she caught a glimpse of his face through her one partially open eye. He was young, perhaps 25, with dark hair and serious blue eyes. He had a strong jaw and a straight nose, and there was a gentleness in his expression that made something in her chest ache. This is my place, he said. I know you need a doctor, but I am afraid if we go into town proper, word will get back to your stepfather before we can get you somewhere safe. So I am going to tend to your wounds here first, if you will allow it. I am no doctor, but I have patched up enough men on cattle drives to know the basics. All right, she whispered. He had a basin of water and several clean cloths. I need to clean the blood from your eyes, he said softly. It is going to hurt, and I am sorry for that, but I have to see the damage. Can you tip your head back for me? She did as he asked, though it took all her courage. The first touch of the wet cloth made her gasp, but Vincent was patient and careful, dabbing gently at her face, washing away the blood with tender strokes. That is it, he murmured. You are doing fine. Just breathe. He worked slowly, methodically, cleaning first one eye and then the other. The water in the basin turned pink, then red. He changed it twice, going outside to the well and returning with fresh water each time. Gradually, Violet began to be able to see more clearly. The swelling was still bad, but with the blood washed away, she could at least open both eyes partially. The cut on your forehead needs stitching, Vincent said, his voice tight with suppressed anger. And your eye socket is badly bruised, but I do not think any bones are broken. Can you tell me where else you are hurt? Ribs, she said. He kicked me, his jaw clenched. May I examine them? I will need to feel along your rib cage to see if anything is broken. I can get a woman from town to do it if you would prefer. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. No one else, please. I trust you. Something shifted in his expression at that, a softness that had not been there before. All right, he said quietly. I will be as gentle as I can. He was true to his word. His hands were careful as he felt along her ribs through the fabric of her dress, checking for breaks or separations. She hissed in pain when he touched the left side, and he pulled back immediately. I think you may have a cracked rib or two, he said. We will need to bind them. Do you have any other injuries I should know about? She shook her head, then winced at the motion. Everything hurt, but the ribs and her face were the worst of it. Vincent spent the next hour tending to her. He stitched the gash on her forehead with surprising skill, his hands steady and sure. He made a poultice for her swollen eye from herbs he had in his cupboard, explaining that his mother had taught him the recipe before she passed. He bound her ribs with long strips of clean linen, wrapping them carefully but firmly around her torso. Through it all, he talked to her in that calm, steady voice, asking her about her life before Walter Pritchard, about her mother, about anything that would keep her focused on something other than the pain. She learned that Vincent was a cowboy, working for one of the big cattle outfits that grazed their herds in the valleys around Beaver. He had been on his way back from checking line camps when he had found her. He had grown up in Wyoming, come south looking for work, and had been in Utah for 2 years. He was unmarried, lived alone in this small house that he rented from a widow in town. He was kind and patient and seemed genuinely concerned for her welfare, and Violet found herself responding to him in a way she had not responded to anyone in a long time. "Why are you helping me?" she asked at one point, when he was applying a cool cloth to her forehead. He looked surprised by the question. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "Because no man should ever lay hands on a woman the way your stepfather did to you, because it is the right thing to do. Most men would have just taken me to the doctor and left me there." "I am not most men," he said quietly. "And besides, I meant what I said. If your stepfather is looking for you, going into town would put you in danger. You are safe here. No one knows you are here except me. He will come looking. Let him come. He will find that I am not a man to be trifled with." There was no bravado in Vincent's words, just a calm certainty that made Violet believe him. She closed her eyes and let herself relax into the chair. For the first time in 3 years, she felt something like hope. Vincent made her soup from a pot of beans he had simmering on the stove, and though she had no appetite, he coaxed her into eating a few spoonfuls. The food settled warmly in her stomach, and she realized how hungry she actually was. She had not eaten since the previous day, too afraid of making another mistake that would earn Walter's wrath. "You should rest," Vincent said when she had finished as much as she could manage. "I will make up the bed for you." "I cannot take your bed," she protested weakly. "You can and you will." "I will sleep in the chair. It will not be the first time." He moved to the small bedroom off the main room, and she heard him changing the linens, preparing the space for her. When he returned, he helped her to her feet and guided her slowly to the bed. Her legs were shaking with exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered as he settled a quilt over her. "I do not know what would have happened if you had not found me." "Do not think about that now," he said gently. "Just rest. You are safe here, Violet. I give you my word." She wanted to stay awake, wanted to talk to him more, but her body had other ideas. Within minutes of her head touching the pillow, she was asleep. She woke several times in the night, disoriented and frightened, and each time Vincent was there. He had moved his chair close to the bedroom door, and whenever she cried out, he came to her side immediately, speaking in low, soothing tones until she calmed. He bathed her eyes again in the middle of the night, when she woke in pain from the swelling, bringing fresh, cool water and clean cloths and tending to her with the same patient care he had shown earlier. "You should sleep," she told him, guilt washing over her. "I am keeping you awake." "I am exactly where I need to be," he said firmly. "Now hush and let me work." The gentleness of his touch as he cleaned her eyes again was almost unbearable. No one had touched her with kindness in so long that she had almost forgotten what it felt like. A tear slipped down her cheek, and Vincent carefully wiped it away with the edge of the cloth. "Does it hurt very badly?" he asked. "No," she said, though it did. "I am just not used to someone being kind to me." His expression darkened. "How long has your stepfather been hurting you?" "Since my mother died. 3 years. 3 years," he repeated, his voice low and dangerous. "And no one in town knew, no one helped you. I tried to hide it. He said if I told anyone, he would kill me. I believed him." She paused. "I still believe him. Vincent, he will come looking for me. When he sobers up, he will realize I am gone, and he will come to town." "Then we will deal with it when the time comes," Vincent said, "but you do not have to face him alone, not anymore." By morning, the swelling in Violet's eyes had gone down enough that she could see properly, though the bruising was spectacular, purple and black, and spreading across half her face. Vincent made coffee and biscuits for breakfast, and they sat at his small table while the morning sun streamed through the windows. "I need to go into town today," Vincent said. "I need to speak with the sheriff about your situation." Fear spiked through her. "No, please, Walter will find out." "Violet, the man nearly killed you. He cannot be allowed to get away with that. The law needs to know." "The law will not do anything," she said bitterly. "He is my stepfather. As far as anyone is concerned, he has the right to discipline me as he sees fit." "That was not discipline. That was attempted murder." "Do you truly think the sheriff will see it that way? I have no proof, no witnesses. It will be my word against his, and Walter is well known in town. He drinks with the sheriff every Saturday night." Vincent was silent for a long moment, his jaw working. "Then what do you want to do?" "I want to disappear," she said quietly. "I want to go somewhere he can never find me." "Do you have family elsewhere?" "Somewhere you could go," she shook her head. "My mother's family is all back east, and I have not heard from them in years. I have no money, no resources, I have nothing." "You have me," Vincent said, and the certainty in his voice made her look up sharply. "I know we have only just met, but I am not going to abandon you to that monster. If you want to leave Beaver, I will help you. I have some money saved. It is not much, but it would be enough to get you on a stage to Salt Lake City or even further if needed." "Why would you do that for me?" she asked, bewildered. "You do not even know me." "I know enough," he said simply. "I know that you are brave to have survived 3 years with that man. I know that you deserve better than what life has given you. And I know that I could not live with myself if I sent you back out there alone." Violet felt something crack open inside her chest, something that had been locked up tight for a very long time. "I do not want to take your money," she said. "You have already done so much." "Then stay here," Vincent said. "Stay in Beaver. I will help you find work, help you get established on your own. There are good people in this town who would hire you once they knew your situation. And when Walter finds out, when he comes looking for me, then I will make it very clear to him that he is not to come near you again," Vincent said, and there was that steel in his voice once more. "I am not a violent man by nature, Violet, but I will do what I must to keep you safe." They talked for hours, weighing options and possibilities. In the end, they decided that Violet would stay in Beaver for the time being, but that she would not return to the homestead under any circumstances. Vincent would make inquiries around town about work for her discreetly, and they would see what opportunities might arise. In the meantime, she would stay with him, sleeping in his bed while he took the chair, until they could find her more suitable lodging. It was not a perfect plan, but it was a start. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended kind of peace. Vincent went about his work, riding out to check cattle and mend fences while Violet rested and recovered. Her face was healing, the bruises fading from black to purple to a sickly yellow-green, and her ribs hurt less with each passing day. Vincent continued to tend to her eyes morning and night, bathing them carefully with clean water and checking for any signs of infection. The ritual had become almost meditative, a quiet intimacy that made Violet's heart beat faster each time he knelt before her with his basin and cloths. She found herself watching him when he was not looking, noticing small things. The way he moved with a kind of easy grace, economical and sure. The way his hands were gentle with her, but capable of hard work, calloused and strong. The way he smiled when she said something that amused him, a slow curve of his lips that made warmth spread through her chest. She tried to tell herself that what she was feeling was simple gratitude, but she knew it was more than that. She was falling for Vincent Harper, falling hard and fast, and she did not know what to do about it. On the fourth day, there was a knock at the door. Violet froze, terror flooding through her, certain that it was Walter come to drag her back. But Vincent put a reassuring hand on her shoulder and went to answer it. Through the window, she saw a woman standing on the porch, middle-aged and respectable-looking, carrying a basket. "Mrs. Henderson," Vincent said, opening the door. "This is a surprise." "I heard you had a young lady staying with you," the woman said without preamble. "The widow Crow saw you carrying her in the other day. Is it true?" Vincent hesitated, then nodded. "It is true. She is recovering from an injury." "May I come in? I promise I am not here to make trouble. I have brought some things I thought she might need." Vincent glanced at Violet, and she nodded reluctantly. He stepped aside and let Mrs. Henderson enter. The woman took one look at Violet's face, and her expression softened. "Oh, you poor dear," she said. "What happened to you?" "I fell," Violet said automatically, the lie she had told so many times over the years. "Do not insult my intelligence, child. No one gets a face like that from falling. Someone beat you and beat you badly." Mrs. Henderson set down her basket and came closer. "Let me guess. Walter Pritchard." Violet's eyes widened. "How did you know?" "Because half the town knows what kind of man he is, even if no one will say it out loud. Because your mother came to church with bruises more than once before she died, and because there have been whispers about you for months now. We all suspected, but you never asked for help, so we did not know what to do." She sighed heavily. "I am sorry, dear. We should have done more." "It is not your fault," Violet whispered. "Perhaps not, but that does not make me feel any better about it." Mrs. Henderson turned to Vincent. "Are you caring for her?" "I am doing my best," he said. "And your intentions toward her are honorable, I trust." Vincent's ears turned red. "Completely honorable, madam. She is sleeping in the bedroom. I am sleeping in the chair." "Good. Because if I thought otherwise, we would be having a very different conversation." Mrs. Henderson opened her basket and began pulling out items. "I have brought some dresses that might fit you, dear, and some undergarments and a pair of shoes. I have also brought some proper medical supplies, bandages and salve and the like. And there is food, bread and preserves and a ham." "Mrs. Henderson, I cannot accept all this," Violet protested. "Nonsense. Consider it a loan if it makes you feel better. When you are back on your feet and earning your own way, you can pay me back if you wish." She paused. "Vincent tells me you are looking for work." "I am," Violet said, "but I do not know who would hire me looking like this. Give it another week for the bruises to fade, and then come see me. I run a boarding house on the other side of town, and I could use help with the cooking and cleaning. The pay is not much, but it includes room and board, and it would give you independence." Mrs. Henderson fixed Violet with a serious look. "It would also get you away from Walter Pritchard. He would not dare make trouble at my establishment. I do not tolerate nonsense from men like him." Violet felt tears prick her eyes. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because everyone deserves a chance to start over," Mrs. Henderson said simply. "And because I wish someone had helped your mother before it was too late." She patted Violet's hand. "Now I will leave you to rest. Vincent, walk me out." Vincent followed her onto the porch, and Violet could hear them talking in low voices. She could not make out the words, but she heard Mrs. Henderson's tone, firm and maternal, and Vincent's quieter responses. When he came back inside, he looked thoughtful. "She is a good woman," he said. "If she has offered you work, you should take it. She will treat you fairly." "I will," Violet said. "But Vincent, I do not want to leave, not yet." He looked at her sharply. "Why not?" "Because I am falling in love with you," she thought, but she could not say the words aloud. Instead, she said, "Because I feel safe here. because you have been so kind to me and I am not ready to say goodbye." Something flickered in his eyes, something that might have been hope or longing or both. "You do not have to say goodbye," he said quietly, "even if you go to work for Mrs. Henderson. I will still be here. You can visit whenever you like." "Is that what you want, for me to visit?" He crossed the room to her, knelt down in front of her chair the way he always did when he tended to her eyes. "Violet," he said, his voice rough, "I need to be honest with you about something. These past few days, caring for you, getting to know you, they have meant more to me than I can put into words. I know the circumstances are not ideal. I know you have been through hell, and the last thing you need is some cowboy complicating your life. But I cannot pretend that I do not feel what I feel." Her heart was hammering in her chest. "What do you feel?" "I feel like I was meant to find you that day," he said. "I feel like every moment I spend with you matters. I feel like I could fall in love with you, Violet Crawford, if you would let me." She reached out with a trembling hand and cupped his cheek. "I think I am already falling in love with you," she whispered. "I know it is too soon. I know it does not make sense, but it is the truth." He turned his head and pressed a kiss to her palm, and the tenderness of the gesture made her breath catch. "Then we will take our time," he said. "We will do this properly. I will court you if you are willing. I will take you to church socials and town picnics. I will prove to you that not all men are like Walter Pritchard. And when you are ready, when you are truly healed and whole, then we will see where this leads." "I am willing," she said. "More than willing." He smiled then, that slow, beautiful smile that made her heart sing, and leaned forward to press a gentle kiss to her forehead, just above the healing cut. "Then we have an understanding," he said. "And I promise you, Violet, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of your trust." The next week passed in a blur of healing and growing closeness. Violet moved into Mrs. Henderson's boarding house, taking a small room on the second floor and beginning her work in the kitchen and the common areas. It was hard work, but honest work, and she threw herself into it with determination. Mrs. Henderson was as good as her word, treating Violet with kindness and respect, and the other boarders quickly accepted her presence. Vincent came to call every evening after his work was done, sitting with her on the front porch of the boarding house or walking with her through the town square. They talked about everything and nothing, sharing their histories and their hopes for the future. He told her about growing up in Wyoming, about losing his parents to scarlet fever when he was 20, about drifting south in search of a new start. She told him about her childhood in Kansas, about her father dying when she was 12, about her mother remarrying too quickly and to the wrong man. "I wish I could have saved you sooner," Vincent said one evening as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. "I wish I could have spared you those 3 years. You saved me when it mattered most," Violet said, threading her fingers through his. "That is what counts." They had not seen Walter Pritchard since the day Vincent had found her. He had not come into town looking for her, had not made any inquiries that they knew of. It was as if he had decided she was not worth the trouble of retrieving. Violet knew she should feel relieved, but instead she felt a low-level anxiety that never quite went away. She knew Walter. She knew his temper and his vindictiveness. The silence felt ominous, like the stillness before a storm. Her fears proved justified 6 weeks after she had fled the homestead. She was walking back to the boarding house from the general store, carrying a basket of supplies Mrs. Henderson had requested when Walter stepped out of the alley in front of her. He looked terrible, his clothes filthy and his face unshaven, his eyes bloodshot and mean. "There you are," he said, his voice a low snarl. "Thought you could run away from me, did you?" Violet's blood turned to ice. She took a step back, gripping the basket handle like a weapon. "Leave me alone, Walter. I do not live with you anymore." The hell you do not. You are my stepdaughter and you live where I say you live. Now get over here, we are going home. No, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I am not going anywhere with you. His face darkened with rage. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I have done for you, putting a roof over your head, feeding you, this is how you repay me. By running off and making me look like a fool. You nearly killed me, Violet said. I have the scars to prove it. If you come near me again, I will go to the sheriff. The sheriff will not do a damn thing, Walter said, advancing on her. You are mine, girl, and I will do with you as I please. He reached for her arm, and Violet swung the basket at him with all her strength. It caught him across the side of the head, and he staggered back with a curse. She turned to run, but he was faster than she expected, grabbing her by the hair and yanking her back. She screamed, and the sound echoed through the street. Suddenly, Vincent was there, appearing as if from nowhere. He grabbed Walter by the shoulder and spun him around, and before the older man could react, Vincent's fist connected with his jaw. Walter went down hard, landing in the dirt, and Vincent stood over him with his fists clenched. Get up, Vincent said, his voice deadly calm. Get up so I can put you down again. Walter wiped blood from his mouth and glared up at him. Who the hell are you? I am the man who found her in the desert after you left her for dead. I am the man who has been caring for her while she heals from what you did to her. And I am the man telling you right now that if you ever come near her again, I will kill you. She belongs to me, Walter spat. She belongs to no one but herself, Vincent said. And if you do not understand that, then you are a bigger fool than I took you for. Now get up and get out of Beaver. If I see you in this town again, I will make good on my promise. Walter climbed slowly to his feet, swaying slightly. He looked at Violet with pure hatred in his eyes. This is not over, he said. Yes, it is, Vincent said. It is over, Pritchard. Accept it and move on with what is left of your miserable life. A crowd had gathered, drawn by Violet's scream and the commotion. Among them was Sheriff Dawson, a burly man in his 50s with a star pinned to his vest. He pushed his way through the onlookers and surveyed the scene. What is going on here? He demanded. This man assaulted Miss Crawford, Vincent said, not taking his eyes off Walter. He grabbed her by the hair and threatened her. I intervened. That true, Pritchard? The sheriff asked. She is my stepdaughter, Walter said. I have a right to bring her home. She is 18 years old, a legal adult, and she has the right to live where she chooses, the sheriff said. And from what I am hearing around town, you gave her plenty of reason to leave. I suggest you do, as Harper says, and get out of Beaver. If you cause any more trouble, I will lock you up for disturbing the peace. Walter looked from the sheriff to Vincent to Violet, and something in his expression shifted. He was outnumbered and he knew it. With a final venomous glare, he turned and stalked away down the street, his shoulders hunched and his gait unsteady. Violet sagged with relief, and Vincent was at her side instantly, his arm around her waist. Are you all right? He asked, his voice tight with concern. I am now, she said. Thank you, if you had not been here. I am always here, he said. I told you, Violet, you do not have to face him alone. The crowd dispersed slowly, and Mrs. Henderson appeared to take charge of Violet, clucking over her and ushering her back to the boarding house. Vincent followed, refusing to leave until he was certain she was safe and settled. That evening he sat with her in the parlor, holding her hand while she trembled with delayed shock. He is not going to stop, she said. You humiliated him in front of the whole town. He will want revenge. Let him try, Vincent said grimly. I meant what I said. If he comes after you again, I will end it. I do not want you to have to fight my battles for me. It is not your battle alone anymore, he said. It is ours. When you care about someone the way I care about you, their troubles become your troubles. That is just how it works. She looked at him, at the fierce determination in his eyes, and felt something settle in her chest. "I love you," she said quietly. "I know it has only been a few weeks, but I love you, Vincent Harper. I need you to know that." His expression softened, and he raised her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "I love you too," he said. "I have loved you since the moment I saw you lying in the desert, broken and brave and refusing to give up. I will love you for the rest of my life if you will let me." "I will let you," she whispered. "I want nothing more." Walter Pritchard left Beaver the next day, packing up his belongings and riding out toward the mining camps in the mountains. Word spread quickly through the town that he was gone, and Violet felt as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She could walk through town without fear now, could sleep without nightmares, could begin to imagine a future that did not involve looking over her shoulder. Vincent courted her properly over the following months, just as he had promised. He took her to church on Sundays, sitting beside her in the pew and singing hymns in a surprisingly good baritone. He escorted her to the harvest dance in September, teaching her the steps she had never learned, laughing when she stepped on his toes. He brought her wildflowers from the hills and sat with her on the boarding house porch in the evenings, talking and holding hands and occasionally stealing kisses that left her breathless. The town accepted their courtship with good grace. There was some gossip, of course, about the cowboy and the girl with the stepfather who had beaten her, but most people seemed to approve of the match. Vincent was well liked, known as a hard worker and an honest man, and Violet was earning a reputation as a capable and diligent worker at the boarding house. They made a handsome couple, people said, and it was clear they were deeply in love. In November, Vincent asked her to marry him. They were sitting by the creek that ran along the edge of town, watching the water flow over smooth stones, when he pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a simple gold band. "It is not much," he said, "but it was my mother's, and I would be honored if you would wear it." "Violet Crawford, will you marry me?" She did not hesitate. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Vincent, I will marry you." They were wed in the small church in Beaver on a cold December day, with Mrs. Henderson standing as Violet's witness and Vincent's foreman standing as his. Violet wore a dress that Mrs. Henderson had helped her make, pale blue wool with lace at the collar and cuffs, and she carried a small bouquet of dried flowers. Vincent wore his best suit, freshly brushed and pressed, and when he saw her walking down the aisle, his eyes filled with tears. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. They exchanged vows in front of the small congregation, promising to love and honor each other for as long as they both lived. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife and told Vincent he could kiss his bride, he did so with such tenderness that several people in the congregation wiped at their eyes. They spent their wedding night in Vincent's small house, which was now their house, making love for the first time with a sweet awkwardness that quickly turned to passion. Vincent was patient and gentle, making sure that Violet felt safe and cherished every moment. Afterwards, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, her head on his chest, his hands stroking her hair. "I never thought I could be this happy," she whispered. "I thought my life was over when my mother died, when I was left alone with Walter. But then you found me, and you saved me, and you gave me a reason to hope again." "You saved yourself," Vincent said. "You were the one who ran. You were the one who survived. I just gave you a safe place to land." "You gave me so much more than that," she said. "You gave me love. You gave me a future. And you gave me the same," he said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "I was just going through the motions before I met you, Violet, working and eating and sleeping, but not really living. You made me want to live again. You made me want to build something, create something that would last." They talked long into the night, making plans for their future. Vincent wanted to save enough money to buy a small ranch of their own, somewhere they could raise cattle and horses and children. Violet wanted to learn to read and write better, to educate herself so she could teach their children someday. They talked about the family they would build together, the life they would create, and it all seemed wonderfully possible. The years that followed were good ones. Vincent continued to work for the cattle outfit, gradually advancing to the position of foreman, while Violet kept house and took in sewing to earn extra money. They were frugal and hardworking, putting away every spare dollar toward their dream of owning land. The town of Beaver grew and changed around them, new families arriving, new businesses opening, but they remained a constant, known and respected by everyone. In the spring of 1885, Violet discovered she was pregnant. Vincent was overjoyed, already planning and preparing for the arrival of their first child. He built a cradle from pine wood, sanding it smooth and painting it white, and Violet sewed tiny gowns and blankets, her heart full of anticipation. Their son was born in January of 1886, a healthy baby with his father's dark hair and his mother's green eyes. They named him William, after Vincent's father, and he became the center of their world. Vincent was a devoted father, coming home from work each day eager to hold his son, to play with him, to teach him about the world. Violet flourished in motherhood, discovering a fierce protectiveness and a deep well of love she had not known she possessed. 2 years later, a daughter arrived, a tiny thing they named Grace. She had Vincent's blue eyes and Violet's delicate features, and she wrapped both her parents around her little finger from the moment she was born. William was a good big brother, gentle with his baby sister, and the house was filled with laughter and love. In 1889, Vincent's years of saving finally paid off. He found a piece of land for sale about 10 miles outside of Beaver. 200 acres of good grazing land with a creek running through it, and a small cabin that would serve until they could build something better. They scraped together the down payment and took out a loan for the rest, and just like that, they were landowners, ranchers in their own right. The work was hard, harder than anything they had done before. They spent their days mending fences, tending livestock, breaking horses, planting hay. The children grew up on the ranch, learning to ride almost before they could walk, helping with chores as soon as they were old enough. More children came, another son named Thomas in 1891, and another daughter named Sarah in 1894, and the ranch house grew with them. Rooms added on as the family expanded. Through it all, Violet never forgot where she had come from. She never forgot the terror of that day when she had run from Walter Pritchard's homestead, bleeding and half blind, certain she was going to die. She never forgot the sound of Vincent's voice, calm and steady, telling her she was safe. She never forgot the gentleness of his hands as he bathed her eyes, cleaning away the blood, tending to her wounds. Sometimes, on quiet evenings when the children were in bed, and she and Vincent sat on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains, she would tell him how grateful she was. How lucky she felt to have been found by him, to have been loved by him, to have built this life with him. "I am the lucky one," he would always say, taking her hand and kissing her knuckles the way he had done since the very beginning. "You are the strongest, bravest, most beautiful woman I have ever known, and I thank God every day that I was the one who found you." They heard about Walter Pritchard only once more, years after they had left Beaver for the ranch. He had died in a mining accident in Colorado, crushed in a tunnel collapse, and though Violet felt a momentary pang of sorrow for the wasted life, she could not bring herself to grieve. He had chosen his path, and it had led to a bitter, lonely end. She had chosen differently, and it had led to everything good in her life. As the 1890s gave way to the new century, the Harper Ranch prospered. They never became wealthy, but they were comfortable, with enough money to feed and clothe their children, to send them to the school in Beaver, to occasionally splurge on small luxuries. Vincent's reputation as a fair dealer, an honest rancher, spread through the territory, and they were well regarded by their neighbors. William grew into a strong, capable young man who loved the ranch and wanted nothing more than to stay and work it with his father. Grace became a schoolteacher, clever and kind, eventually marrying a banker from Cedar City and settling there. Thomas followed in his father's footsteps as a rancher, while Sarah, the youngest, surprised everyone by declaring her intention to become a nurse, moving to Salt Lake City to attend training. Through all the changes and challenges, Vincent and Violet's love never wavered. They celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary in 1904 with a party at the ranch, surrounded by children and grandchildren and friends. Vincent gave a toast, his voice thick with emotion, talking about the day he had found Violet in the desert and how it had changed both their lives forever. "I did not know when I rode out that morning that I would find my future," he said, raising his glass. "But I did. I found a woman who had every reason to give up on life, but who fought with everything she had to survive. I found a woman who taught me what courage looks like, what strength really means. I found the love of my life, and I would live that day over and over again, just for the privilege of saving her, of loving her, of building this life with her." Violet wept openly, and their children cheered, and the party went on late into the night, filled with music and dancing and joy. As they grew older, they slowed down but never stopped. Vincent taught William everything he knew about ranching, preparing him to take over when the time came. Violet spent her days tending her garden, quilting with the other ranch wives, doting on her grandchildren when they came to visit. They took long walks together in the evenings, hand in hand, talking about their day, their family, their memories. On a warm summer evening in 1920, they sat on the porch of the ranch house they had built together, watching their great-grandchildren play in the yard. William's son had married and started a family of his own, and the ranch was entering its second generation of Harpers. The sun was setting in a blaze of orange and gold, and the air smelled of sage and dust and home. "You ever think about that day?" Violet asked, leaning her head against Vincent's shoulder. They were both in their 60s now, weathered by years of hard work and sun, but still strong, still together. "Every day," Vincent said, wrapping his arm around her. "I think about how close I came to not riding that way, to not finding you. I think about how different my life would have been if I had taken a different path that morning." "I think about it too," she said. "I think about how afraid I was, how certain I was going to die, and then you were there and everything changed. Do you remember how I bathed your eyes?" He asked, his voice soft with memory. "How careful I had to be, how much blood there was." "I remember," she said. "I remember thinking that no one had ever touched me with such kindness. I remember falling in love with you right then, even though I barely knew you." "I fell in love with you just as fast," he said. "The moment I saw your courage, your will to survive, I was done for." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and pink. The sounds of their family surrounded them, children laughing, adults talking, the peaceful sounds of a life well lived. "We did all right, did we not?" Violet said quietly. "We built something good." "We built something extraordinary," Vincent corrected. "We built a family, a home, a legacy. We took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into the best thing that ever happened to both of us." She turned to look at him, at the man who had saved her life in more ways than one, who had loved her through every joy and sorrow, who had been her partner and her best friend for nearly 40 years. His face was lined now, his hair silver, but his eyes were still the same, warm and blue and full of love. "I love you," she said. "I will love you until my last breath and beyond." "And I love you," he said, cupping her face in his weathered hands. "You are my heart, Violet Harper. You always have been." He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and she tasted salt on his lips, tears of happiness and gratitude and enduring love. Around them, their family continued their evening, secure in the knowledge that their matriarch and patriarch were still deeply devoted to one another after all these years. They lived out the rest of their days on the ranch they had built, surrounded by the family they had created, their love story a testament to the healing power of compassion, the strength of the human spirit, and the enduring nature of true love. Vincent Harper had found Violet Crawford broken and bleeding in the Utah desert, had bathed her eyes and tended her wounds, and in doing so had saved not only her life but his own. Together, they had built a life of purpose and meaning, proving that even the darkest beginnings can lead to the brightest futures. Years later, after both had passed peacefully in their sleep within months of each other, their descendants would gather at the ranch for reunions, telling the story of how it all began. They would talk about the day Vincent found Violet, about his tenderness in caring for her, about the love that had bloomed between them. They would speak of courage and kindness, of second chances and new beginnings. The ranch would remain in the Harper family for generations, a living legacy of what Vincent and Violet had built together. The old ranch house would be preserved, turned into a family museum of sorts, filled with photographs and mementos from those early days. The cradle Vincent had built for William would sit in a place of honor, as would the wedding dress Violet had worn, carefully preserved in tissue paper. But more than the physical objects, what endured was the story itself. The story of a cowboy who had shown mercy to a stranger in desperate need. The story of a young woman who had found the strength to escape her abuser and the courage to love again. The story of two people who had found each other at exactly the right moment and had built something beautiful out of their shared second chance. It was a story about salvation and redemption, about the power of gentle hands and a compassionate heart. It was a story about the healing that comes from being truly seen and truly loved. And it was a story that reminded everyone who heard it that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead directly to the best, if we are brave enough to accept the help that is offered and wise enough to recognize love when it finds us. Vincent and Violet Harper had lived their love story in the harsh but beautiful landscape of the Utah Territory, in the Wild West where life was hard and justice was often rough. But they had created their own kind of justice, their own kind of beauty, building a sanctuary of love and family that withstood every challenge the years brought. Their love had been forged in pain but tempered with tenderness, and it had lasted a lifetime, a shining example to everyone who knew them of what marriage could be when it was built on mutual respect, unwavering devotion, and the kind of love that sees beyond scars to the soul beneath. The children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who carried their blood would inherit more than land and cattle. They would inherit the legacy of their love, the knowledge that true strength comes from gentleness, that real courage is found in compassion, and that the most important thing any person can do is to help another person when they are in desperate need, to offer kindness without expectation of reward, to love with the whole heart even when it would be easier to remain alone. Vincent Harper had found Violet Crawford on a scorching August day in 1883, and he had bathed her eyes, washing away the blood and the pain, giving her the gift of sight restored and hope renewed. In return, she had given him purpose and meaning, had shown him what it meant to truly live rather than simply exist. Together, they had created something that would outlast them both, a love story for the ages, a reminder that even in the harshest circumstances, beauty and goodness can flourish if we are willing to nurture them with patience and care. And so their story ended not with tragedy but with triumph, not with sorrow but with satisfaction, as all the best love stories do. They had lived well, loved deeply, and left the world better than they found it. They had proven that one act of kindness can change everything, that one moment of compassion can alter the course of multiple lives. They had shown that love, real love, the kind that lasts, is built not on grand gestures but on small acts of tenderness repeated day after day, year after year, until they become the very foundation of existence. Vincent and Violet Harper had found each other in the wilderness, and together they had created a home, a family, a legacy of love that would echo through generations. Their story would be told and retold, a source of inspiration and hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the night, dawn will come, often in the form of an unexpected stranger who offers a helping hand and stays to offer a loving heart. And that, truly, was the greatest gift of all.